Yeah, good to see you again, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Hey, Rob. Hey, yeah, very nice. It's been a while. It's been a while, and seen your successes have been nice to be also a part of the podcast now.
That's really kind. It's actually, it's funny you should say that, right? So when I first started this venture, you were one of the very first people to reach out independently and just say, look, good luck. And you seem to find the concept quite exciting. And so I was very grateful because I thought it would work and I was confident what I was doing was the right thing. But when someone kind of backs you up a little bit and comes in with some positive wishes, it did mean a lot at the time. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And yeah, maybe you also noticed because back in your recruitment days, you called me a couple of times when I was out on a run, and then you made me see that maybe I do some exercise as well.
Yeah, I was very aware that you're a fit guy. You take your health very seriously, and of course, very aware of your travel schedule, which I'm sure we'll get into later. So I had a feeling that that there was some crossover between what I was talking about and what you were practicing. So yeah, I think this is a good match. And this whole concept of the podcast was to be a free information hub for busy professionals who want to feel, look, perform better. And I think you really embody a lot of those values. So I think we should get a lot of useful information today for those people.
Yeah, thanks. Can't wait.
So as you said, we've known each other quite a long time.
Yep.
We have engaged in conversation. We've met at events. My travel schedule was pretty crazy. I know yours is too, but perhaps for those that are maybe outside of the sector or those that haven't had the pleasure yet, could you do a bit of an intro? Who are you, and tell us a little bit about your line of work?
Yeah, so my name is Janne Salminen. I work for Superyacht Interiors, and we build interiors for yacht for new builds or conversions, refits. I'm from Finland. Our headquarters is in Finland, and we offer and work all around Europe. I live in the Netherlands, in The Hague, or Den Haag in Dutch, and I work as a commercial director, which is business development, but sales and marketing, and so going to shows and meeting clients and being in the offer stage, and so that's the main key positions that I hold.
And without digging into your background too much, you've held other senior positions in the industry at director, VP, and even C-suite level, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, true. I've been in the marine industry. I used to work more in the cruise industry, so to say. 18, 19 something years, and started off from installation to design and chief designer, then project manager, procurement stuff, then director of design and engineering, logistics, IT stuff, and board, sitting at the board. And then for interior parts, working at the shipyard on outfitting side, and now in yachting for the last 4 years. So yeah, get to know the industry quite well from the marine and interior side, especially.
And the industry itself is international by nature. And if you are, as you are currently in a commercial role, a business development role, there is a significant requirement to be on the road. I certainly found that. I was commercial lead for the business that I was part of before coming in and taking on this venture.
Yes.
And you have to go where the business is. And unfortunately, in the maritime space, the business isn't always on your doorstep. So give us, if you will, because I know you've just got back from the Monaco Yacht Show, for example, which it's a hell of an event and very busy. A lot of steps, a lot of walking, a lot of networking, on your feet all day predominantly. But could you give us a bit of an insight into your travel schedule? How often you're on the road? How long for? And perhaps some of the destinations that you're required to go to.
Yeah, well, if you start from I think I travel not that bad. So it's maybe throughout the year, it's every second, every third week. That's about it. And beginning of the year, it's a show in Kitzbühel. So that's a winter show. Then comes Dubai Yacht Show in February, March. Then comes I don't always go to every single one, but then comes also Miami Boat Show comes in March. Then we had Barcelona this year with the Technology Forum in April. Then we had May. Was it May or May was Palma Yacht Show. Then we'll meet the buyers also in Malta. No, Palma as well. Actually, in June. July and August are quite quiet, so to say. Then comes the real marketing and sales. Fall starts with Cannes Yacht Show. Then comes Monaco. Then comes Fort Lauderdale, Metz in Amsterdam, and before that is also Explore Yacht Summit. And then those are the ones that are in the calendar to have to go to and are budgeted. And then of course, then I do other trips for commercial use, that when there's a negotiation or client wants to see or a shipyard wants to see, or I go just to visit them. So next week I'll be in south of France and for just a couple of days, and then I'll come back, and then I'll be at the home office again for a week, and then it's Fort Lauderdale after that. So it's much more in the fall, but that's about the just of it of how much I go. And you're right that in the marine time, it's in my last job. So then we had also a project in Japan, and especially Norway, which was very difficult to fly to from Finland. And we also worked in Germany and different places. So then it goes, but it's a project based and sales based, so it goes in waves, and nothing is really set in stone. And then sometimes you have to go a little bit faster. So something like that.
So I mean, you say it's you said, it's not too bad, and then proceeded to list almost every major maritime and yachting hub in the world. So let's talk about the regularity of your travel. I suppose it's hard to keep a routine in place when every second or third week you're on the road, and that's the stuff that's, as you said, kind of bookmarked in the calendar, and then you're going to have the, I guess, last minute things pop up, client issues, leads that you need to follow up on.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you stay active when you are constantly on the road?
Well, I think it's an overall. So I train. I like to, well, it's also after a trip, I like to train, because then I like to get my body moving again after sitting a long time in airplanes or something like this. And then I train as much as I can between those trips. And it's depending on a lot what kind of a trip they are. For example, Monaco is Tuesday to Sunday, and it's really, really long days. That's from 10 to midnight, so that's 14, 16 hours with people. And so that's completely different to, for example, next week is just a meeting for 4 hours or 5 hours. So I fly the day before, then I can train, and it doesn't really, and the flight is also not so long, it's 2.5 hours or something, so it's not so bad. And so then I do either a kind of a maintenance system on those longer ones, keeping active and keeping the energy up during the show, and also the fact that I don't crash completely when I come home. And then for the shorter ones or the shorter trips, then I can actually train a little bit more if I like to. But that's depending also very much on the where it is and what the schedule's like. But then I optimize. First of all, I always choose a hotel with the gym, because I like to be in the gym and not in my hotel room doing something, because there's always some sort of a bike or treadmill or a couple of weights, and then you get a little bit of sweat on, and that's about fun. I don't train in a sense that I have a maximum that I need to do this and this on the trips. It's more like do something, something. So it's an overhaul more. And but yeah, so it's in between. But it's also that of course I do train a lot, but I don't really have any sort of a significant goal. So even though if I would have something, then these trips would be much more difficult. But I did train for half marathon. I never ran more than 10K in my life, but not last, I think it was March this year March there was and then I trained a little bit more running and a little bit more long distance running. Nothing big, but anyway. So then I did, but sometimes. Hey, sorry, I don't know if maybe it's my end, but yeah, internet just fell through.
So yeah, look, technology happens. No issue. So you were talking a little bit about how your focus was on the half marathon that you ran in March. Your training was a little bit more, of course, running and cardio focused during that period. You were also just talking about how if you're going away for a big event like the Monaco Yacht Show, and again, I know, having done Monaco Yacht Show, Palma Yacht Show, these events will keep you active. There's not really any need to go then and train thereafter. I mean, I'd be surprised if you're getting change out of 20 to 30,000 steps a day at the Monaco Yacht Show. The last time I went, I didn't plan it like this, but every meeting that I had scheduled, I had meetings back to back all day. I went for 2 days back to back, and every day was meetings back to back, and they just happened to be on opposite ends of the marina, and it was chaos. But and actually, I can anecdotally tell you a little story about the Palma boat show. My former colleague Katie Darby, shout out to Katie, she was a superstar. We walked so much over the couple of days we were at the Palma yacht show that both of us, our feet were bleeding. And so we were walking around the airport in Palma waiting for our flight with no shoes on, because we'd walked so much, we just physically couldn't wear our shoes anymore. So whereas like you, if I'm doing a shorter trip, if I'm flying out for 1 or 2 meetings, I'm the same. I want a hotel with a gym, and if I can't do that, then I'm doing push-ups in the room, or I'm doing something to, more than anything, just to shake the jet lag a little bit, just to not feel the impact.
Absolutely. The airports, or no airports, but the airplanes are the worst of how you feel when you sit there and can't do anything, and you shake a little bit, so you get you get just puffiness, and it takes all the water in you, and then you just try to get it out of you as soon as possible. So that's about it.
What about nutrition? As many people nowadays, it's very cool to have a food intolerance. Mine is dairy. So I always found that firstly, international travel was a nightmare, because you're kind of cornered into eating shit. And on top of that, a lot of the shit that you can pick up generally has some sort of dairy factor in it, particularly if you go to the continent. They look at you strange. So it was always really challenging for me. So I would either opt to fast or keep my food intake very, very basic. How do you manage that? Because I'm sure you come across this challenge.
No, very much so. It's very tricky. Airports are really bad. The shows, depending on where they are, but the shows have the tendency that, because the pace, as you said, there's back-to-back meetings. So if you want to go somewhere to lunch, there's so many people, there's so long queues already that you can't afford to be 1.5 hours waiting and then eating something. So it's very difficult. So I got to the optimization level that I take with me food. So I pack my own sandwiches, because they don't have mayonnaise and all sorts of other things in it. Some eggs or banana or something like this. So then I can control the fact that what I eat during the flight, or what if I come late to the hotel. So then I have my evening meal-ish with me. And the next day, breakfast. There you can pick many times something, at least, from the hotels. Some are better than others, but there you try to get it spot. But then, in between there, the lunch is that's already a little bit tricky. And but it's also that I don't try to optimize to 100%. I know that I'm gonna, when we go with the client and we go to a restaurant, there's gonna be some beer or wine, and then I just eat what I eat. I eat so healthy, and every bio you can a pure food I can during the whole month. So if I miss 3 or 4 days during a month, it's not the end of the world. So. But but you can feel it when you eat really good and then you eat something not good. That's also a little bit hazardous, because you can't go eating something very weird during the day, because then the work stops very quickly.
I completely agree, and I've done some content on this a couple of times. Firstly, the amount of times I've been in a client meeting, and because I'll always opt for the leanest option, and it's not always a health-based decision. It's often a cognitive function-based decision. So I've been sat having maybe some sort of generic protein, carb, vegetable sauce, whether that's a steak or some chicken and some vegetables and some potato perhaps. And I've sat in front of somebody who has just faded in front of my eyes because they've gone for the heavy, decadent, carb-loaded. And I'm trying to do business here. I'm trying to have an educated conversation with you, and you can see that add a couple of beers or a couple of glasses of wine on top, and before you know it, this has gone from a structured business meeting to just feeling a little bit one-sided. And on top of that, you talked about breakfast. I was in a situation, I won't name names. I was in a situation where I traveled with a former colleague, and we were it was an overnight travel. We were sat having breakfast, and this individual's come back with all the good stuff, all the fun stuff, that perhaps was not conducive to optimal performance. And I tried to explain that, look, whilst I'm not here to kind of piss on your parade, we have a job to do. We're on business. If we were at an all-inclusive buffet on holiday, you best believe I'm having the waffles and the pancakes, and I'm having all of the good stuff. But I expect that when we turn up to our client in an hour and a half, that we need to be on the ball, we need to be sharp, we need to be able to present well so we can bring home the business. And so at a breakfast buffet, there's oats, there's fruit, there's good protein sources. You don't have to be going all in on maybe the pastries and the waffles and the pancakes. We're here to do a job. It's business. It's not a vacation. So I'm really pleased to hear that you agree with that, and perhaps someone in a sales capacity like yourself, where particularly as well, I think we should just highlight for those that maybe don't know the sector. I'm sure they can imagine, but the sector that you are in, we are talking about some of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, and they have certain expectations, and you have to present in a certain way. And whether we like it or not, the yachting industry has an image to uphold. And so I suppose does that play a factor at all for you, thinking about how you present in front of a client?
No, of course. Yes, of course. Well, yeah, I would totally agree. And one thing is also not to eat that it's bad for you, so to say, that the muffins or anything, but the crash afterwards it's very different. If I want to eat something on a Sunday, then take a nap in the afternoon, then it's fine. But if I want to keep the energy level, then you have to eat very small amounts during the day, and something like as you described very well. For the ones that are the presentability and for the industry, it's also a little bit that everybody's also there a professional, and they all act accordingly, and that's the name of the game of those people who are there, and that's expected about from everybody. So that show and the people walking around and how much they look at what they eat or exercise is different to another industry show, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I think just the last thing I'd like to add on that, just because I've given it some consideration, and I've got a client actually who, again, I won't name names, of course, but found that he's a slightly larger guy, very, very smart, very good at his job, and actually very well recognized in his industry. Goes to these big corporate events, but the fact that he has to walk around an exhibition center, or because they are long days, and anyone that's been to an expo or similar knows what that entails. He's a bigger guy, he's unfit, he gets sweaty, he gets out of breath, he gets red in the face. And so when he's going in to do business or meet with people, he feels self-conscious. Am I sweating too much? Am I too out of breath? Do they notice? Do I look sweaty? and as a result, that was actually impacting his confidence and his performance. And so you got to be relatively in good condition to go and do these events, because they're long days, they are hard, but you've also got to feel really confident to walk up to a complete stranger, say, "Hi, my name's Rob," create small talk out of nowhere, maybe swap a business card with a view of them walking away thinking, "I like that guy. He's got something about him." So yeah, I think those events particularly do require some level of, or base level of, fitness and well-being.
Absolutely, and it's like, as you said, it's well, now Monaco was very nice. It was 23 something degrees, and Thursday even it rained first time. I've been there now 4 times.
Wow.
But one of those years was 33 degrees, and there's no way you're gonna be there in shorts and sandals, because that's not for men. That's not, pretty much nobody just does it. It's not allowed. It's not. So when you have dark blue trousers on and a shirt on, you're gonna. So I even have I optimized the way, even that one, that I don't go to a hotel. I take an Airbnb very close by, so just outside the show. So then I do my morning part, and this is actually a good for what we talked about earlier about nutrition. So I take an Airbnb so I can do some prep work for my, so not really food, but I can boil some eggs and have some other things as well. So then I go to when I fly in, I go to the store, buy the refrigerator full of what I usually want to have as a snack or anything like that. So between for now is Monaco. So now I've been working for 5 hours or something like this until 3 or 4. Then I go to my Airbnb. I take a shower, change my clothes, because they will be at least some part sweaty, and so they have a complete new wardrobe. And then I eat my own meal, so to say, a smaller one, and then I head back for the evening part of it. So that's all if you want to really optimize. But this I've been doing now for 3 years, because sometimes you can get a hotel with a fridge, but not all of the fridges are even working nowadays. So you can't really have not really of anything. But if you can boil water and stuff like that, then it's already you're quite far.
I think that's a brilliant tip. And funnily enough, the last time I did the Monaco Yacht Show, we didn't have an Airbnb close by. It was still in Nice, so we still had to get the train in and out. But the ability to just have a few more amenities at our disposal was really valuable. So I think that's a great tip. I had a podcast a couple of episodes ago with a guy called Gareth Beverley, who's the chief exec of a drone company, international drone company, travels a lot, particularly to the States. He's based in Southampton, funnily enough. Super nice guy. He has always had some trouble with his sleep, and found that in particular international travel would really kind of mess with that. We all know that good sleep is conducive to good performance. How do you manage your sleep on an international travel schedule?
Yeah, very bad. I've been always quite bad. Nowadays I sleep at home quite good, but I used to also not do even that. Traveling and sleeping in airplanes is pretty close to impossible for me. So then I select either flights that, for example, now that I go to Fort Lauderdale, so I start from here during midday. So I'm gonna be there at maybe 5 o'clock. So it's gonna be a really long day, but I don't really need to sleep, because it's not nighttime, so to say.
Right.
And then I do the evening, and then I'm pretty much so exhausted because I've been awake so long. So then it's easier for me to sleep. And then coming back, I take a flight that starts at midnight. So then I'm already in the feeling of trying that. Then I sleep to some level at least. But I also have that when going to a new hotel or something, I always wake up at 4 or something, and then the next day I sleep more. So if I get 5 hours, then I maybe get 6 or 7 hours the next one, and usually I don't get between close to 7. I very rarely sleep already to 8 hours a day, and never really done it. But it is quite so. What I try to do, and what I see that has helped a little bit. That I try to stretch even when I come in the evening, and then I take magnesium and some salt water, and you just get because you've been, even if it's not super hot, you've been sweating at some level, so you miss also all sorts of nutrients, and that has to do with the sleep, but it has to do also more with the next day and how much energy you have to do, because then on day 3 and 4 you're gonna feel it if you don't do it right. But sleeping is in new spaces, weird blanket, weird covers, everything is a little bit different, so it is difficult. So but yeah, those are the tricks. But if I would fly much more to US, that would be quite hard for me, I think.
I think magnesium's a great one. I regularly take magnesium. I'm not at the moment. As many will know, I've got an infant son under 1 year old. If I take magnesium and he cries in the night, he's sorting himself out. I'm not waking up. That stuff puts me out.
Okay.
So I just can't at the moment. But the dreams are really weird. Do you find that with magnesium, the very vivid dreams?
So I pretty much take it when I'm home because I get restless legs. So it helps for that, and then it keeps me awake, I think, or gets me to sleep faster, or keeps me. So I don't get those ones. I have some weird dreams, yes, but I have never put that bridge to that one. But yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
It's also depending on you can also depending on how much magnesium you take. That's very different. You can take quite a lot in a sense, but that's depending on, and there's different magnesium, as you very well know.
Is true.
Yes.
This is true.
If you take a triple one or citrus, or something.
Yeah, you're right. But it's interesting to hear that you are taking both sodium and magnesium together, which is generally the combination in most electrolytes anyway, electrolyte drinks. So I take mine first thing, particularly before my coffee. I take an electrolyte drink, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and of course sodium in that particular blend, and push my coffee back about an hour to an hour and a half. I got some stick for saying that because everyone likes their coffee first thing in the morning, but generally, the amount of people that I've encouraged to do this, and from what the data is saying, it can really help with alertness in the morning, feeling more awake, but also there's a couple of factors. Helps stretch out the effectiveness of the caffeine, so it kind of lasts longer before it drops off, but also it seems to, or it's indicated that it will curb the afternoon crash, which is really interesting too. If you load up on caffeine too early, firstly, why wouldn't you hydrate first thing? I think that's crazy. I think the first putting coffee in your body, the first thing you do is nuts anyway, rather than something to hydrate you. But so those are some really interesting things. So do you, on that note, do you have a morning routine, an evening routine that you follow?
Yeah, but I want to also comment on the coffee part. As many of us, we've been drinking coffee for decades, and some maybe 2 or 3 times I tested to stop it, and then I had a small headache, and then I started again, maybe weeks later, a month later. But now I've been off coffee for 10 months or 11, something like that, and I don't see the. It's not like I don't really think about it. I just don't do it anymore, and it's funny when everybody thinks that, well, I need caffeine to wake up or pick myself up, and I don't see any difference, not a single thing. If anything, I think I'm more awake now than I used to be, because when you try to do it and you drink a little bit too much, you get the coffee shakes even, and then you crash like crazy. Of course, everything is in moderation. So a good copy here, a cup here and there is of course good. And I'm not saying that I do it right, but it's funny this time around. I don't know if I'm ever going back anymore. So in the morning, yes, I drink water just because I'm thirsty, and then I have 1 big cup of tea, and then I need the news, so I don't eat completely. Maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, maybe. Then then yeah, most of the time. Well, now I've been also switching and testing, but at the moment I eat 2 eggs with salt and some juice, and that's my morning breakfast.
So do you feel that kind of going light on breakfast is that an impact for you? So for me, I'm an eggs and bacon guy. I'm really
Yeah.
traditional. I tend to have my carbs later in the day, so I
Yeah.
kind of go protein and fats first.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm not a big eater in the morning anyway, but
No.
I don't like feeling heavy first thing. You know, it's not a great way for me to kind of get going.
No, completely right. And I have to test. I remember at one stage I ate porridge in the morning, but that made me just feel even more hungry later on. And especially eating, well, as said, I don't, even if I'm not on a business trip, I don't eat much because I feel like I feel like I'm crashing after a couple of hours or 3 hours. So I'm good with this one, but I would agree that I also don't put that much. Also, I reduced my lunch also to a certain degree. It's also funny with the lunch thingy, the real warm lunch. That if I ask my parents, when you see pictures of people in the 70s and they're all skinny, and then I talked to my mother and said that we never had any warm meals during it was in the evening, but not during lunch. And that's also that if you think that how much energy you need to actually do what you do, then that's quite an easy mathematic. But so I also don't do too big of a lunch, and that's a thing that you get used to it. You might feel a little bit hungry in the beginning, but then you get really used to it, and then you don't need it or want it anymore, and then you feel fine. So, but that's the crashing part is considerable if you have lots of carbs in it.
I also think it's the quality of the food. I read a really disturbing statistic recently. 60% of the American diet is made up of ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
And my first initial thought was those fat bastards in America, because they've got that stereotype.
Yeah.
And then I read right underneath it, 50% of the UK.
Yes, UK. Yeah. You're the second, really nicely second, actually.
Yeah. We're not far behind. And I'm always interested to see, again, I've seen this in offices I've worked in. I've had this conversation with clients. People talk about the afternoon crash, and I'm not surprised when you look at what they've eaten, and it's sugary and it's refined, heavy carbohydrates, and your body's working overtime to digest this stuff and to process it, not to mention the sugar spike that happens. And then by 2 o'clock, they're gone. And I worked with a guy a few months back, and his whole thing, and I really admire this, and I don't think enough people take this seriously. His whole thing was, I want to clean up my act, get fitter, healthier, because I want to move towards a promotion at work. He'd identified that something that was missing for him was his day-to-day practices. And we often talked about the quality of his lunch. And I would talk to him about, listen, when they're fading at 2 o'clock, because they've had, heavy refined carbs, they've had sugars, and well, that's their day done. And if your competition, your peers, your colleagues that you got for promotion against are only doing, say, 8 till 2, and you're doing 8 till 6, because we're not crashing, we're going straight through, we're able to imagine how much more productive you'll be, how much more work you'll get done, who's going to be the go-to guy when there's a problem. And so I really think more people that are seriously career driven need to start looking at their well-being practices, because I think that's the key that unlocks it.
Yeah, well, in that case, there's also studies show, and it seems to be that it's the division of being overweight or then in shape is much bigger. So it's either guys a little bit like us who actually thinks about these things, but we are unfortunately the majority, and the minority, and then the majority is the ones that just eat what they can find in the stores. And it's the bad part is so that all the bad shit is that's the least expensive stuff. if you want to eat good, you have to make an effort for time and making things, and especially the stores, because they're not in every store, and they cost at least somewhat more money. And that's the it's the upside down world in a sense. It is, and in the process and yes, I seen the same kind of numbers about refined foods and ready-made microwave foods, and what happened to everybody after that one, and it's slowly ongoing. So it builds up in you, like for 20 years.
I completely agree. We touched on at the beginning of the episode exercise. I know you're a super fit guy. You like to work out. A lot of people tend to find those that aren't maybe physically fit, or they don't enjoy exercise. I think at times they struggle to understand why we love it. And I get it, because it's hard. And I was in the gym. I mean, I'm in the gym every day, but particularly Monday I do my heavy squats, and I hate it. I'm not good at them. I've never been good at them. I'm 97% leg, so it's such a long way down. So I'm in there and I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. And I get out and I feel great. But why is exercise so important to you?
Yeah, I think the fast answer is the same as you. I procrastinate every day when I go to the gym a little bit, maybe 5 minutes, but I do it as well. I don't like to go, but I always, the motivation is what happens after the training, because I don't know, maybe it's addictive, endorphins or what kind, but that is just something that's been for so long, that the feeling afterwards is by far the best part of it. And of course, when you have also a mentality of somewhat competitiveness, so you put goals to yourself. It doesn't matter if you want to squat 100 and next year you want to squat 120 or whatever your number is, but if you train accordingly or try to get there, and next year you're there, and then you have a goal, and that brings interest in the training, and also is something that look forward to. So of course, but I train pretty much 6 times a week. I usually, for some reason, I like to keep Saturdays off, and I also keep it off because, well, you have to also rest a little bit, and then. But I do very mixed. It's depending a little bit. If it's sun is shining, I go for a run. If it's raining or I don't feel like it, I'll go to the gym. I also go to I don't have a personal trainer or anybody that I just have my different kinds of routines, and then I do legs. And if I did legs, then I do arms, and then I do chest one day and back another day, and crunches or something every day or something like this. I don't really have a complete system of routine of what to do, because I don't have a goal of having a bench press, so should be better than others. Most of the time it's for mental health, and it's also that I want to, because I see you also in the business wear, so either you are this level or then you have to buy a 600 euro suit again. So there's a limitation. There's limitations of what you can, where the initiative comes from as well. I also noticed that I ran a little bit less, so then I lifted a little bit more. So the suit started to be a little bit. I'm not a big guy, but it started to be a little bit bulky. So it was like, okay, now we do bigger reps and run a little bit more, and then it just fits again snugly. So that's.
You're not wrong about the suits, actually, and whilst in some cases I really miss it, I have a wardrobe full of beautiful suits. I'm very particular about the suits that I would wear, and the accoutrement, the accessories, and how to put together a suit. But I would, I think, like you, I would spend probably far too much money on my suits, and then I would go and get them. If they weren't tailored already, I would then go to a tailor and get them nipped and tucked. And then, like you say, you're kind of, you can't put on any weight now, because it's a really expensive problem to fix. And I get that.
Yeah, and as we are at least somewhat similar age, you can that every year it's more.
It's harder.
You have to be more
Yeah.
careful. But my suit is 6 years old and it still works. But it's getting there. That soon I have to maybe. But that's also that I'm not too stressed about it. We have all our bodies when we get older, and you get a few pounds maybe. But anyway, that's not the. I don't exercise. I don't have an Instagram account. I'm not on Facebook. I don't take any pictures of anything I do or exercise related at all. So that's just purely for my fun of it.
And I think you've touched on something there. And where did I hear this? It might have been Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom, who's got a great podcast. He talked about the changing point in a man's life in particular. I don't know women, you'll have to confirm for me, but in a man's life, you start off in your teens and your 20s and you're trying to get as big and as ripped as possible, and you realize that that's not only incredibly dull in some cases but incredibly hard. But the older you get, all I want to do is be able to run, jump, sprint, climb, carry. I just want to be functional. I want to be useful, and I don't really care too much about the physical. I want to look in shape and I want my clothes to fit and look nice. I spend, again, too much money on clothes to not fit in them well. But the goals are different now. I also do a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I do that 4 times a week. And so I want to be a functioning adult, a capable man to be able to lift and fight and carry and run, like I said. So, for me, that means I'm not training for a physique anymore. And so I think people need to recognize, and people listening to this need to acknowledge that, look, pick what you want. You can have the physique, you can do the work, and you can take the testosterone or the steroids, or you can just feel good. A lot of it is mental health related as well, like you said.
And it's like when you mentioned women, I do see in the gym that they I think they work out 90% on their ass, like and when sometimes when I see their is it called a hip thrust when you have it, the weights?
Yeah.
And I tried the weights that the young girl had. I was like, geez, my back is going to break soon. I was like, this is insane. And she had I don't know, she had like 60 kilos on that one, and I was like, this is I never done that training, so I just tested it out. But you see a lot of them that they only train for one reason, and I was like, okay, well, maybe they'll learn later.
Yeah, and I think that will come in later life, because it's the same for me. It's the same as when I was a youngster, or even though I see young guys in the gym now, it's all chest and biceps.
Yeah,
they're not training legs, and so I think
show muscles, and then
the
legs are like this.
Yeah. Mine are still like that.
Yeah, and as I played football for 20-something years, my legs are like this. So I have difficulty sometimes finding pants that fit me because the legs are, and I like to do legs mostly. I hate I think I got 80 on bench press. That's the maximum I ever. But usually I do it with 60, and that's about. I have no interest of doing anything more than that.
Perfect.
But that's also different if you do if your goal is to have a big bench press, or how fast you do 100 push-ups. Because one of these goals that I mentioned earlier, so I've been trying to do. I checked out how fast I can do 100 burpees with a jump, and I came to 11 and a half minutes. But I think I'm gonna try to get to 10 minutes, and when you try that with 10 burpees and you have a 20-second or 30-second pause, that when your pulse is 180, 190, that is something else. That's something that I like to do. So
I think that's a great time. That's really hard. And now, just because of how competitive I am, I'm going to have to try that. So thanks for that. Now I've got that to look forward to.
This is not far. It's like some months ago, and when I came up with it in my head, because I did check out YouTube, so some guys also tried it and something like that. But I made it up by myself, and then I thought that, I'll send an LinkedIn or something to Rob and say that this is a challenge for Rob, that check out what you. But then I didn't want you to beat me, so I didn't do it.
I don't think I'll be beating that. Don't worry.
No, but I think it's 11 and a half or something. Yeah, because one set takes around 30-ish seconds, and then I had to pause for 45 seconds, something like this. Well, anyway, it's fun. Test it out.
There we go. It's out there, and it's the gauntlet's been thrown down.
Yes, exactly.
What do you feel that exercise does for your professional performance?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer because I never done not it. Of course, I've been injured with knee injuries and back injuries, but I think it gives more. I think always it's the exercising gives more energy than it actually takes. So you have more, even though you might during the exercise or afterwards you're exhausted, but it doesn't take long, and then it's up and it stays up for longer. So I think it's in overall, so to say, business stamina, if you can call it that. So of course, because as the guy who you mentioned who is overweight, his day is much worse than the guy who is not, and of course, how you keep yourself alert on different tasks in the business world, and that has numerous things to think about. But yes, for sure, I think there's nothing negative about it. Maybe it's that way. That for sure, it's
yeah. I think that's really true. Do you notice a difference, say, if you are injured or you don't get a chance to train, or your schedule doesn't quite allow you to, whether it be lift weights or do some decent distance in your running? Do you feel that in a negative way?
Yes. Yeah. I get a little bit anxious. I get irritated. I'm not. I feel that something's missing. I hate it also, especially when. Actually, now my back is a little bit so because I did a back training and something ripped little bit. So I'm keeping 2 days off. But this is already torture. So it's not like nice, because I feel like end of the day that something was missing from the day if I can't train. And it's also the fact that if you have a business or whatever is going on in my life, then I go for a run, and I always feel better after it. I don't know if I actively think about that problem or situation, but at least I have a more positive outlook on life after my training, for sure. So that goes to everything.
I think that's really true. Today's an unusual day for me. Today I won't train. Wednesday is normally a non-negotiable weights day, but it just so happens that it just wasn't feasible today with what I had going on, what my wife had going on. We took our son out for a walk. That's the best we could do. We could get 40 minutes to walk. And I know people will say, oh, well, you had 40 minutes to train, but we had to double that up, that 40 minutes as a meeting. So my wife and I run businesses together. So, within today's diary was a business meeting. We're going through an exciting project that we've got happening in the next couple of months, which needs a lot of attention. So the best it's going to be is a 40-minute walk today at quite a slow pace, because we had the pram. And so I know for a fact today I'll get into bed and I'll be restless because I haven't managed to do what I would usually do. So, but I do think this is, sorry, go ahead.
No, but the walk also helps, because then you're outside for a time period. So I would just say that, because when days like those come, at least if you get the walk in, that feels a little bit better.
I would agree, and what I would say is that the meeting was absolutely amazing. We were both firing, which was really cool. We came up with lots of ideas. We overcame some hurdles that we had in front of us that we were kind of struggling to get our heads around. So I would encourage. I know a lot of people say this. It's easier than people think it is. Just take your meetings outside. Just go for a walk. I appreciate, maybe if you're in the UK or in Europe, sometimes the weather's not always favorable, but we both came back and we thought that was good. I feel like we got an hour's worth of meeting time and meeting work done in 40 minutes. Everything just seemed kind of sped up slightly. So that was really interesting.
True. But also in another that I also noticed that the training 6 times a week, and but then when I have business or for some other reason, then I just don't train for 3-4 days. Then the training is really, really good and enjoyable. I'm faster, stronger, because you also need to rest. And that becomes also every year becomes more important in the sense that, because I don't also train, even though I train 6 times, I don't train nearly at 100%. I go so that I can train every day, because if I would do 100, then I would need more rest days. But that's also is actually quite nice if you take a Monaco and then you have a 2-day rest or something like that. Then you go for a run, and then you take some route that I usually take, and then I see that I'm faster now than I was 3 weeks ago, and it goes faster. So
I think that's a really valid point. I think it's a really valid point. There was a guy, I forget his name. He's an MMA coach, and his philosophy was that we never train to max capacity. Because, and he gave an analogy, I'm sure I'll butcher this, but the analogy was something along the lines of, if you go in the gym and you do, let's say pull-ups, and you do as many pull-ups as you can, and you go to max capacity and you burn out, and let's say you do 50 pull-ups. Well, you're not going to be really in a good place to train your back hard again for 4 or 5 days, maybe, certainly 3. But if I went in and did shorter amounts, I could train every single day, and accumulatively I would end up doing more reps, more sets than you. So there's perhaps something in that also, as to not completely burning out. But you're right in terms of the rest as well. We absolutely do need to make time, and I think it's important, particularly as a coach, that I am in tune with how my clients are feeling, and sometimes scheduling them a deload week. Like, the program stays the same, but we're going to go in and we're going to do 50% of the weight, same reps, but just bring it down.
No, but you see it also, and I think you see in the numbers of how many resolutions about how many people go to the gym in January, and then they fade out, and then they come back before summer because they need to go summer shape, and then they fade out again and during the summer. And that's the thing, that many people, and again, the older you get, the slower you have to build it up. Otherwise, injury, and then it stops, and it happens very often. And so check it out. But I think that's a really great point with New Year's resolutions. Something that I'm a big believer of is that people come out the blocks too hard and too fast, and they make too many resolutions. They go, I'm going to stop eating shit, and I'm going to only eat healthy, and I'm going to train 5-6 days a week, and I'm going to stop drinking, and and it's too much. My one tip for, if I could give anyone some advice when it comes to New Year's resolutions, is just pick one and work on it. So if it's, you want to go to the gym, cool, go and start the gym and do 2 days a week, and just keep your diet the same for the time being, and just dial back the eating and drinking if you want to, but don't go cold turkey. You're gonna have to build. It takes time, and then once you're consistently hitting the gym a few times a week, well, then maybe we can take away a couple of the midweek drinks, and then once we're in a position where we've dialed back our drinking, maybe we can then start to look at the nutrition, and can we take out some of that ultra processed food first, and then start dialing back the amount of calories you're consuming. And I think that's much more sustainable, and probably more in line with your point, than just going, I'm going to do this and this up front, and then people just get fed up because it's just too much of a lifestyle change. Yeah, and I think I had a couple of big knee injuries, so I got some kilos on. Maybe I got 5 or 6. This is a long time ago. But when I tried to get them or take them out, I also noticed that if you want to, like, in a sustainable way, lose the weight, you can only lose about 2 kilos a month, in a sense that how much you can. So these kinds of super diets where you crash for some months, never gonna be lasting for a long time, because and I've never been in a real diet, so I just cut down the drinking and chips and all the bad stuff, and then I increased the exercise. So there I found the more burning and the less calories deficit for numerous months in a row, and then it was okay.
Great advice. So let's talk about diary management. We've kind of touched on it a few times, about making time and planning. I think you've got quite an interesting take on this. So, how do you're a senior guy in a business, you travel all the time, how do you make time for you, and how potentially do you avoid things like being overstressed, overworked, and burnout?
Well, you learn from your mistakes. At least I work that way. So I had one really bad. No, actually, I think the both were, but really close burnout. So that was like panic attacks and everything. But I never went to really get it assessed or taking vacation for it. But after the second one, I got through that one, and then I thought that okay, maybe I don't take, because I saw also there was in the industry people that after the third one, then they're not recovering anymore. So I learned my lesson, so to say, and just taking more that. And then I noticed also some things that in the job related world, because it's still just a job, and if the sad thing is, but it's fact that if I for some reason get hit by a bus tomorrow, they will hire somebody else to do my job. That's the reality. There is nobody, and that goes for pretty much everybody else in the world as well. And so when you take the fact that it's not so, that yes, you should do your abilities, work good, and be proud of what you do, but also try to understand that it's not the whole world, and everything else accordingly. So yeah, I think also my I have done, or afterwards I did a lot of headspace and meditation for, I think I did it for 8 years in a row, every single day, and that was good. I'm not saying that then I just stopped, because I just was okay with me and found a balance, and now I picked it up a little bit again. I haven't done it for numerous years, and then you have to just plan ahead about about nutrition and the weekly things that you can fit all your programs in. And for me also, exercising has always been part of the meditation. So when I do it, as I said, then I feel better. I feel better about myself, my self-confidence, because I've achieved something. So it builds up from that one already, and so they go, so to say, hand in hand.
I'm really appreciative that you were open and honest enough to talk about, I was close to burnout. There were a couple of occasions. I don't want to push you for too many details, but perhaps could you maybe share, for those that might be feeling overworked or particularly stressed, were there a series of events that led to that? Were there a series of behaviors or things that you'd neglected that kind of got you to that point? And I know everybody's different and it's going to be somewhat subjective, but perhaps could you maybe identify for people what you think you might have been doing that contributed to that?
Yeah, well, there was other things in my life as well. So I think it's always, it's not only work, but the bad part is that when you work the way and start burning out, that affects the rest of your life, and then those becomes even more problem with then going on top of the burnout. So the burnout should be considered as a life burnout, in just a work burnout. That's just a part of it. But at least it's a major part of it. I noticed from myself that I took my position and my task very seriously, and I wanted to do them well. So then I will follow up on other people's work, etc. So I just most of the things you bring it on to yourself, I believe, or I did at least. Of course, I had a boss and they gave me this task, but and it's the difficult part is that when you have them in whatever part of your career and you step up and then you get this new task, it's the first time you do it, so you can't really, it's difficult to know how much to do to actually get them done and not, so to say, get fired or get anything shit from that, but then again not do so much that you burn out, and that's the difficulty. Of course, when you walk through them nowadays, if I would have the same amount of task and things like that, I would of course do it differently or have a different perspective on it. I think the perspective on it is it's more valuable than the actual making of it. But you do a lot of unnecessary things when you try to do a new job, and that takes a huge amount of effort. And but yeah, it's in what I did wrong. Yes, maybe I had a couple of a bit too much to drink afterwards to try to relax, and that escalates in a long run. It's that helps for a while, but then it becomes just a downward hill of complete crap. So it's still, but it is difficult when you're not exercising and you come home and your pulse is 150. So it's like, so what should I do now? And yes, I'll start meditating so it doesn't feel like it.
You're absolutely right, and it's not uncommon, particularly I suppose in any culture, but particularly European culture, to have a drink after work. I think one thing that's overlooked about having a drink after work in particular is the quality of your sleep. So it impacts the quality of your REM, the length and the depth. So not only is it not great for your, potentially over the long run, not great for your mental health, not great for your physical health, but also it impacts your sleep, which then has a knock-on effect to you feeling not well rested the next day. And so I can absolutely see how that was careering towards burnout. Are you big on blocking time? The thing I've always really admired about you, actually, given that we've worked in the same sector for quite a long time, is that you are continuously busy, always on the road, performing at a high level. I know how high maintenance the yachting and the cruise space, but the yachting space in particular can be, how demanding the clientele are. So because I've seen that you are always busy, what does downtime look like? How do you structure it? How do you block out time? Is that something that's big for you?
Yeah, well, if I travel for vacation, I try not to travel by airplane. So we drove to Austria and hiked the mountains for a week this year. Then we drove to Nice and hanged out also in the mountains, because just walking in the mountains is like exercise. So you don't have to do and come home and do push-ups and feel like exercising. And then you're in nature and try not to have your phone at least on airplane mode and take pictures, and then just otherwise. Otherwise then I don't need to block out so much. I have enough time to do my things, but I restore, either I do woodworking or restore bikes, or then I do some other things. So I find that, or restore. So I found time for those ones, but then I work with my hands, so to say. I get interest gratification of something got polished or cut or built up. And that has always been, so that's I'm a furniture designer and maker by trade, so I like to do that, and as a hobby, and the rest of it is exercising. So yeah, it's the downtown is it, but I think it's also, I try to, when you're in sales, you're in sales 24 hours a day, in the sense that many times on weekends or Sundays WhatsApp is the main business source anyway. So you get WhatsApp from clients, or have to be in contact with somebody. They are evenings, mornings, weekends. It doesn't really. So I think the overall is that I try to keep the balance per day, not the fact that I'll run like crazy during the week and then I'll just crash and sleep all weekend. So because that's what I used to do. So now I try to even it out, and I have no problem with if I work in the Saturday morning for 3 hours. I'm not really bothering anybody, and that's away from something that I don't have to do on Monday. So if I feel sleepy on Monday or do want to go to training in the morning and take some, so then I'll do that, because I'm nowadays I'm quite free in the sense. So how to schedule my time.
I think you make a really valid point about sales, and something it took me far too long in my career excuse me, far too long in my career to feel confident enough to do. And maybe it was a case of as I got more tenured in my career, I got better at what I did, and I was comfortable that I could hit my numbers and do what I needed to do, was setting boundaries with clients. For me, it was a case of I might get a phone call as I'm walking into the gym from a client saying, we need to do this, and can you give this some attention? And I became very good at saying, look, I'm about to go into the gym, whether it's a workout or whether it's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class. I'm going to go in. I'm going to be in there for an hour to 90 minutes. By the time I get out, it's going to be late, and I'm going to be shutting down for the evening. Is this business critical, or can I pick this up in the morning? And there were very few occasions. There were some, particularly with some of the startups I was working with. They were like, no, it's business critical. Drop everything you're doing. Well, that's why I got, that's why I got paid the commission I got paid, because I could turn around, turn around things like that.
Yeah.
But most of the time they'd say, you know what, absolutely, enjoy your workout, have a good night's sleep, we'll see you tomorrow. But being confident enough to just set some boundaries.
Yeah. I think if I would be, in hindsight, when I got to work environment, so then they started paying my phone bill. So then that became my personal phone, became the business phone at the same time.
Right.
And I thought that, great, I'll save money a long time ago. But retrospect, I would now appreciate having two numbers. So I would have my private stuff, and then I could just put the other phone and just leave it and just close it. And because that's emails out there, WhatsApp is there, everything is on the same phone. You have to have the phone anyway for everything nowadays. So it will even if I have all the notifications off, I will still see them, or I will check them or something like this. So if I would do something, or even if people are listening, so if you want to try it, take another phone, give it to only your friends and family, and keep that one as a separate phone from your work phone, because that is one way of good to disconnect.
I think that's a great point, and actually something I'm in the middle of doing now. So I've still got the same number I had previously.
Yeah.
So that's great, because I've got so many connections that can get hold of me. But in the same breath, I would love to just go out with a phone that maybe 6 people have the phone number to.
Yeah.
And no apps, no email. I recently, the wife and I, we did a cruise just back in September, and something that we really loved was that we could within reason completely detach. So sea days were amazing. There was just no point looking at the phone. Now, of course, we've got businesses to run, so we needed to check in. We had people covering some things for us in fitness class capacities that we employ. But so there was some touching base required, but there were a few days where we just got to do nothing, no connection, and you just couldn't get hold of us. We were in the middle of the ocean. It was really nice.
And it's funny, but then when you do that, you also find that the world has gone forward. Nothing really bad has happened. The fact that you're not checking everything all the time, nothing really was different. And once you test those out, and it's uncomfortable the first time around, then you get used to the fact that you don't have to put it. But yeah, phone is by far it's really, it's so good and bad, the phone.
I agree, and I do think if you are a professional and your business can't function without you, and they can't leave you alone whilst you're out of the office or you're on holiday, your company has much bigger problems than you being out of the office. They have a talent issue, they have a structural issue, they have an organizational and operational issue. If one person being out of business is going to completely bring the thing to the ground, that organization has much bigger problems. And also I'd just like to use this platform to say, if you are a manager or a leader, just leave your people alone. They're going to come back feeling much more refreshed.
Yeah.
They're going to be much more
it
valuable.
Won't help anything, and they can't do anything really from there. So
no, exactly that. So you let your people get refreshed, let them come back feeling good, and you'll get much more productivity out of them. So look, before we close off, I'm so happy with being able to have this conversation. First, I'm just so happy to see you again. It's been such a long time, and I'm very grateful for the insights. I think you have helped a lot of people today. If you could kind of leave us with maybe some closing thoughts about things that you would like the busy professional to consider when it comes to managing their well-being, or more importantly, the phrase that I use is improving their performance through their holistic wellness. What would you say are the kind of top 3 or 4 points that people should really be considering?
Well, even if it's the weather is also, even if UK weather is legendary, but Netherlands weather is not that much better. But I think overall screen time for phone, TV, computer, as we all are maximum, well, very much on, me included. But the less you can do it, the better. And then whatever you want to do, as you said, for you, a 40-minute walk is just about enough to keep you at least somewhat happy. But for others, that could be the best thing for us as a start of the training program. So it doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to have a custom-made suit or train 6 times a week or do jiu-jitsu. You can just go outside and walk, move your body at any level. And then the third, same thing. It doesn't matter. You can have also, so even real sugar is actually good for you. But check out that you just try to eat a little bit differently and try different things. And the more cleaner it is, what it look like from the ground and what you put in your mouth, then the better it is. And you don't have to go all vegan and do all sorts of things. But if you have like 6 pints a week, just take 5 pints a week. Check it out, and take 4 after a month. Take 4 pints a week, or whatever your number is, and test out a little bit and see how you feel about it. But these are just it really isn't. It really isn't when you really just when you take the first step should be just very small, and there's all sorts of things people can do.
I absolutely agree. I think that's great advice. There's a lot of low barriers to entry, a lot of free access to, just like as you said, walking, just making slightly smarter choices. I think that's the key. Just do something, start, and we can absolutely build from there. So
yeah, exactly. It builds from there, because then when you feel better, you want to feel even more better, and then it goes. But it is a little bit the Instagram feed of the world, that what people, fitness gurus, which are Photoshop most of the pictures anyway, so they're all fake. Just to have a healthy body and healthy mind is the first step.
I'd just like to add one extra point, just because I think this would be useful, if you don't mind. I know we're tight on time, but just because you touched on something about the Instagram kind of fitness influencer, and you are absolutely right. When I set so I'm relatively new to Instagram. I've got a large LinkedIn following, but a relatively small Instagram following as it grows with me on this journey. As soon as I set my Instagram up and I put that I was a fitness and performance coach, you start getting the targeted paid ads. And I've been horrified over the past however long I've been doing this now, that the amount of adverts that are targeted towards personal trainers and fitness professionals, so around make more money, this is how you launch a personal training business, this is how you make your your Instagram content more engaging, start using these tactics. And the thing that worries me about that is now that we are looking to create, I say we, the fitness industry seems to be looking to create more clickbait than ever before.
Yeah.
And you'll see it all the time. You'll see some guy with his shirt off and he'll say, stop doing this exercise. If you're doing this exercise, it's totally, or, you know, the big one, you know, here's 5 reasons that you should X, Y, and Z. Stick around to the end because the last one's great. If the last one's great, tell me first. But they need the views, or these 1 second reels that are nuts, you know, 1 second and then read the caption. And whilst I'm reading the caption, the video's playing and collecting. So I think just to highlight that, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in the fitness industry that is less so about providing quality information and support, and much more about collecting followers and likes and playing the algorithm. So take it with a pinch of salt for sure.
Absolutely. And it's, if you go to YouTube or something else and you have like different training programs, it's one guy saying this and what's, and then there's like I think there's maybe 50 different ways to do a bicep, and it's really not for everybody listening. Just if you want to do like squat, put something on your back and go up and down. That's leg training. You don't have to do anything else. It's like you can do it very, very simply, but the overthinking about all sorts of things, it's just it's a really, but it's the sad part of the greed of the human race. That's what they want. Clicks and money.
You're right. When it comes to fitness, the stuff that works is the stuff that's always worked. So
exactly.
Janne, this has been great, mate. Thank you so much for doing this. I really value your insight. And the thing with me and this podcast that I was so keen to do was to ensure that I was speaking to real busy professionals. I've got, as many would have seen, we've got sports therapists on, other fitness coaches, mental health counselor, lots of really cool stuff. But it's really important that we can evidence that this stuff is real and works in the real world. And you're able to do that fantastically. You know, the way you manage your workload, the way you take care of yourself, the way you're still able to perform in a super competitive market and deliver, you know, for me has been really impressive to watch. And so thank you for your insight. Thank you for being so generous with your very valuable and scarce time. And thanks for contributing.
Absolutely. No problem. Thanks, Rob, for having me. And it's you're an inspiration even to me, because you went to do and you following your dreams and doing something that you really, really love. So it's very supernatural and nice to see. So this was fun. Great.
That. Good man. So well, look, safe travels. Thank you again, and we'll catch up soon, I hope.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Good man. Cheers.